Welcome back, my name's Steve and thank you for joining me on my photography journey today. So today I want to take you through my entire workflow in Lightroom Classic. We might even touch on Photoshop as well, but I've been out, I've taken some pictures, they're all on this SD card from my camera. That camera is my trusty Nikon Z5 and these were pictures taken with my 35mm lens. So let's have a look at what I do now that I'm back from the woods. I've got my SD card, what happens next? So the first thing that I need to do is get these onto my computer. So down here, because I'm using a Mac, I have got a dongle, of course. So this is allowing me, so this is for being able to watch myself and monitor myself while I'm recording this video. So ignore the cam link. I've got power cable. And then I have got the SD card. So let's put that in next. So the SD card goes in the side here. And now you can see on my screen, the Nikon Z5 has shown up as a drive, and that is the files from the SD card. So let's open Lightroom Classic. There we go. So now we've got Lightroom Classic open. What do we do next? So in the library module, we click the import button to begin, and that's on the left-hand side, down at the bottom here, and just click on import. So that will bring up these files from the SD card and have them all here ready to go. So as you can see, I've got some of my color checker, I've got some of the dogs in the forest, quite a few different ones. So how do we import them? Left hand side here is what the source is, so in this case the SD card. Then in the middle we've got choosing our pictures. I've currently got it set to new photos, so anything that Lightroom doesn't see as being one that's already in the library, it will import. Obviously you can tick boxes to choose whether you want to include them or not, and you can highlight a few at once and tick them all at once. We set it to copy, so it won't delete them from the SD card, it will just copy them across into Lightroom Classic's storage, wherever you choose that to be. So for the moment, I've chosen that to be the hard disk on my Mac. It will go into this folder, so in Steve, which is me obviously, and into my pictures folder. Then what I want to do is I want to build some smart previews. These I can work with while editing, even if the original file actually isn't attached. So if you were saving onto an external hard disk, then that's a good way to do it, so you can always edit your pictures. Collections, so I want to add it to a collection, and I want a new collection. So I want to call this 35mm pictures. And we'll create that. So it's like a folder within Lightroom so that you can find your pictures fairly easily. Just press import. Lightroom Classic does its magic, and as quick as that, everything is imported and ready to look at. So while it finishes building these smart previews so that we can do editing even when the drive isn't attached, you can have a look on the side here. So collections is the organizational structure. So that's what we have done. We've created that 35mm picture one. Folders is basically just your storage on your computer, so I keep that one closed and just work in collections, much more straightforward. So now what I want to do, now these pictures are here, I want to go through, I don't want to edit all 290 pictures from that last import, so I don't want to go through and fully edit all of those. I want to pick out the best ones in order to just edit those. So let's have a look and see what we can do. I've talked about this before in one of my Lightroom videos, so have a look back at that for a bit more detail, but I'm basically going to compare the different pictures and decide which ones to keep and which ones to delete. So these four are all looking very similar, or we can compare all of them together and see which ones I prefer. So the fact that there's two almost identical, we can just click into them and see any differences between them in terms of the settings on the camera. So if you look down here, we've got an aperture of f9 on here and an aperture of f1.8 on here. These are obviously the different apertures that I can use on my 35mm lens, so it's a comparison between the two. And I think these ones are probably the same. So yes, we've got one at f1.8 and one at f9. So I want to keep all of those. The easiest way to do it is on the grid and select all of them, and then P for pick, and that flags them as ones that I want to keep. Next up, we've got 3 pictures of Ruby. So again, I'll select them all and compare them. And I can see that I don't actually like this first one. So I can X to reject it, don't like this one, X to reject it. I do like that one, so I'm going to keep that, and P to pick, G to go back to our grid, and then a couple of pictures of a leaf in front of a tree. So again, let's have a look at those, and I'm just going to keep this one on the right. They're both very much the same picture. This one is just too overexposed, so click on it, X, click on this one, P. Nice and straightforward. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep going through all of these pictures, particularly where I've got duplicates. I'm going to have a look at them, compare them, and see which ones I want to keep. You can zoom in and see that that one's actually out of focus. So X, the one next to it is, I think, perfectly in focus. So I'll pick that one back to our grid. That one, it's terrible. These ones, they're kind of a bit nothingy really. I don't like those at all. So I'm going to select all of those and X. Then that one, the tree's nicely in focus, shows the blurring of the background with f1.8. I like that, so I'll pick that. Don't particularly like those ones with the dogs in as well. Branston going to the toilet, not ideal. All a bit dark there. In fact, I don't really like any of these ones. Let's see, we've now just got 13 pictures selected, so that makes editing them a lot easier. So what I tend to do now is I will just apply some basic settings to all of these so that it gives me an idea of what's going on. So again, shift, click, highlight them all, press D to go into your develop module, and making sure that auto sync is on here. So what we're going to do is make some slight adjustments to our curves. Get rid of any pure blacks, get rid of any pure whites, and give it a bit more contrast by giving it a bit of an S-curve. So nothing too tricky, nothing too specific, but that's going to have updated the settings for all of those pictures that are selected at once. G to go back to that, and then we can see that they've all changed just slightly. Now that gives us a bit more of an idea of what they're going to look like. And then I can go through again just to see whether there's any that I want to get rid of or any that I particularly want to keep. So let's go into this one, for example, and now into our develop module. It all looks very dark. So do I now spend my time editing this picture, or do I just want to have a quick look and decide whether to use it or not? That's the one. So let's try an auto, and this will change the settings based on what Lightroom thinks is best for that picture. We can see our before and after, and I'm not a big fan, but I will brighten it up a bit. And to be honest, I don't really like that picture now. The exposure's all a bit wrong. I just don't like it, so I'm going to delete that one. Back to our grid, and again we can do that going through all of them to see which ones we like, which ones we don't like. Once I've chosen ones that I do like for example, let's use little Branston here. So I've gone through all of the pictures, checked them on auto settings and things. So let's do that on this one, auto on here, brightens it up a bit. What we can do now is play around with it a bit more. So I want to crop it, so let's do that first of all. Let's stick to a square crop. Let's bring that down a bit. There we go, that looks a bit better, doesn't it? So remember when we were looking at all these different options that you've got in your editing module, in your develop module? That's what we're going to do. Again, details are in the previous video, but I'm just going to go through it quickly now. Again, we can press auto. That will base the auto settings on the actual crop that you've got of that picture at that point, so it can update it as well, which it has done there, and actually that looks quite good. So what we can do is, remember, we can zoom in. So it's at 100% now. We can see the details on Branston. The background is nice and blurred. He's nicely in focus. This is a really good picture. Then we can adjust things if we want to. We can adjust the colors. We can adjust, put any masking and things like that. But actually, one thing I might do is just select him as the subject. There we go, that's selected him nicely. So anything that's coming up red for me is what I've selected. So, and then we can duplicate and then invert it. So then we've got two separate masks, one of the background and one of the subject. So let's start with the background. What I'm going to do is just take the saturation out of this slightly, just because you've got this very green area up in the top right, just here, which takes a little bit of the attention from Branston. So we've just desaturated it slightly. What I tend to do is lots of small adjustments rather than any big ones. And then we can come back to him. Do we want to increase the saturation on him slightly? That will just enhance those differences slightly. And again, I don't think that looks too bad at all. Exposure wise, he's okay. To be honest, he's quite dark down here. So let's see what we can do with some of these blacks. Can we increase them slightly? Doesn't look so great. Shadows. There we go, that looks a little bit better. It doesn't look so artificial now. And again, we don't want to overdo it, so there we go, perfect. And if you wanted to have him if you wanted to have, let's go into the right mask, him highlighted there, but you didn't want all of him, what you can also do is, we covered this before, but you can subtract, and let's subtract a linear gradient so that I can take out that part. So there we go. So this part is minused from this. So now when we come into here, any adjustments we make, it's just to do something dramatic, affects the bottom more than it affects the top of him. Let's go back to normal there. So what I wanted to do here was increase the shadows slightly, which affects just this bit. Much better. So now we've got our picture there. What can we do with it? Normally I would, let's say, export this to Instagram. So it's a nice square crop, 1:1, so I know it's the right size. So let's go to File and Export. And then we have different settings on here. As you can see, I've got some presets already, but we're not going to use those now. We're going to just do a one-off. So we can change any of these settings. Let's just hide those so we don't need to look at them. So let's change this to where we want to export it to. So we want to just export it to our desktop. We don't want a folder for it. If it exists already, it will ask us what to do with it. Don't really matter about the file name, but I'm just going to put Steve Martin Photography Demo. And then it's going to be in a JPEG. It's going to be 100% quality. Don't want to limit the file size or anything. With Instagram, I know that the file size is 1080 by 1080 for a square picture. So I want to fit it into that so that Instagram doesn't do any cropping or anything like that. And that's it. So we'll press export and you can see it's exporting that one file, and now we'll be able to see that on our desktop. And there we go. So I can now use this to post it onto social media. How do I do that? What's the best way to do it? Well, I've got Instagram on my phone. So what I can do is use this share button to send it via AirDrop to my phone. And there you go, you can see it's arrived on my phone so that I can now share it to Instagram. Nice and straightforward, really. So now we're back into Lightroom Classic, and let's just go back to our loop view of this rather than the develop module. And I want to record in here some way that I have exported it so that I know for future which ones I have and haven't. So what I do is I flag them as being red, which is the number 6. So if we go back to our grid, you can see this little red border around the outside of it. So to me, that means that this photo has been exported, so I've done something with it. Easy to see, isn't it, that that one's been exported. So, and next time we're going to have a look at Photoshop to show you the differences between Lightroom Classic and Photoshop, but that is for another week. Thank you for watching today, and don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and I will see you again next time on my photography journey. So have a great week. Bye.